What would you do if you found out your landlord stuck a car tracking GPS on your vehicle just so they could watch your whereabouts and where you were going, all because their daughter is obsessed with you and you want nothing to do with her, but they want you to get married to her? So what would you do? Once you find the tracker, would you go and confront them, or would you do something else? But first, let me tell you the full story. Your family is supposed to be your foundation, right? The one place you can rely on when things get difficult or you need some guidance. But what happens when that foundation absolutely crumbles, leaving you all alone to figure out your life by yourself? Well, that's been my life for the past year, ever since my mother passed away. And that also might be the only reason why I'm here in this mess, turning to a bunch of strangers for help. But before I get into this mess that my life is right now, I guess a little context is due. I'm Leo, 24, currently struggling to find a balance between my college and my part-time job. Sounds pretty normal, right? A lot of students are doing the same thing. But the difference is I've been on my own for what feels like forever. So guys, here's the harsh truth. My mother was basically everything to me. She was the only person who inspired me to be something, someone worth remembering. And every day, especially after my dad walked out on us when I was still a kid, soon enough he divorced my mom and found himself a new family, something younger and shinier, I guess, eventually just packed up and moved to another country. I haven't heard from him ever since, and he didn't even want to fight for me. I was sort of okay with it. I mean, I was content with my mom, so much so that I don't even know where my dad lives now. I know that sounds pretty rough and traumatic for a kid, and believe me, it was. But I had my mom. My mom never really gave up on me, and she sacrificed everything for me, her career and her big dreams, including the ones to get a business degree and start her own business someday. But fate had something else planned for her, because during her first year in college, she fell pregnant with me and had to drop out. I used to feel guilty about it, after being the reason her dreams didn't come true. She never made me feel that way, of course, but I knew how much that degree meant to her. So when she got sick, like really sick, and told me that her only wish was for me to finish college, I made her a promise. I told her I'd get that degree, now just for me, but for her too. She passed away a few months later, and ever since then I've been doing everything I can to keep that promise. I'm studying for my business degree just like she wanted. It's not easy though, and if anything, it's been the toughest thing lately. I don't have a trust fund or any financial safety net, and if it were not for my mother's wish, I would have long dropped out of college and gotten a full-time job. For me, this is because I'm barely making ends meet paying for my tuition and my basic expenses with a part-time job at a local department store. I live in a tiny rented home, sort of a rundown house, a very small room, and let me tell you, it's far from ideal. This brings me to my landlord, Kate, and the reason why I'm here. So you see, Kate's a 55-year-old woman who lives downstairs with her bratty daughter, Riley. And when I say bratty daughter, I mean it in the fullest sense of the word. Riley's around the same age as me, but the way she behaves you would mistake her for a high school queen bee. She doesn't work, doesn't study, just lazes around the house all day, and Kate just dotes on her like she's royalty, while I'm up in my tiny room trying to focus on my studies and work and barely keeping up with both. At first, Kate seemed like any other landlord, nosy but manageable. She had all these weird rules though, like she insisted I had to be home by a certain time because she didn't want strangers coming and going at odd hours. I had to keep the kitchen spotless, even though I barely used it. She even had a problem with the way I parked my car, telling me I was taking up too much space in her front yard. She even once suggested I sell that old car just so we could have some more space. This was something that got me into an argument with her because I refused to sell my car. You know, this car belonged to my mom. It was the last thing that I had to remember her by, since we had to sell most of the valuable items to pay for the medical bills. There were also a few other petty things that Kate argued about with me, but I let it all slide. The rent was cheap, way cheaper than anything else I could afford, but I didn't have the luxury of being picky. But things took a weird turn just a few days ago. Kate knocked on my door one evening, and I assumed that she was there to complain about something else. Maybe she didn't like the way that I'd hung up my laundry or something. But this time she was acting different. She had this weird smile on her face, like she was about to tell me some fantastic news, and it made me uneasy. Then, out of nowhere, she tells me that Riley would make a great couple. Me and Riley. Well, I was taken aback. I mean, where was this conversation coming from, and where was it heading? Scratch that. Where did this come from? I just asked her what she meant, and she told me that we were both good looking and we already lived in the same house. So why don't we just go ahead and get married? Married, you know. That would be amazing, she said. Oh man, she said all this in the calmest of tones, as if she was asking to borrow something from me, as if she had not just asked me to marry her only daughter. At first I thought that she was joking, but the way she looked at me so serious made me pretty uncomfortable, if I say so myself. Well, anyways, I was more shocked by the minute, but as soon as I processed what Kate just said, I told her that I already had a girlfriend and wasn't interested in getting married to her daughter. Sorry. Well, she didn't seem to take the hint as she went on and on about how good the two of us would actually look together, how I would not find another girl ever that's equivalent to Riley, as we were going to be perfect for each other, and how Riley really liked me. Yeah, well, no surprise there. This is when I realized that this was not some joke, and Kate really wanted me to marry her daughter. And for what? To keep me around as some live-in son-in-law. I tried to shut it down as politely as possible, just repeating over and over that I already had a girlfriend and was not interested in Riley. But Kate would not drop it. The next few days were absolute misery. Kate started pestering me more than ever, and she would show up at random times, knocking on my door to check in, or reminding me how nice it would be if I reconsidered her proposal. Riley started acting weird, too. She wasn't exactly friendly to begin with, but now she was always around, and it was like she was watching me. One time I was leaving for class, and I saw Riley just standing outside the house, looking at me like she was waiting for something. When I asked her what she was doing, she just smiled and walked away. That smile, it gave me chills. Then things started getting worse, if that was even possible. I'd see Riley everywhere, and at first I thought it was just a coincidence. Maybe she was just out running errands and we just ran into each other. But it kept happening. I'd walk out of class, and there would be Riley sitting on the bench outside the campus, pretending to be reading a book but clearly waiting for little old me. I even saw her at the department store where I worked, browsing through the aisles as if she just happened to be shopping there. But I knew better. She wasn't there to shop. The worst part was how she interacted with me. It was like she intentionally went to all these places just to try to strike up a conversation with me, trying to flirt with me all the time. I was honestly annoyed by this. I mean, everywhere I went, Riley was there. I could not go to the cafe, I couldn't go to the library or even the park without running into her. And the way she talked to me, so animated, with those little hearts in her eyes, it was all so unnerving. I was starting to get really uncomfortable with these incidents, and I'm not the only one who thinks these incidents can't be coincidences, right? I don't know what to do anymore. This whole thing has completely creeped me out, and I can't concentrate on my studies because I'm always looking over my shoulder, wondering if Riley's going to show up any minute. I've tried avoiding her, but she always seems to find me, and I can't exactly just pack up and leave because I don't have the money for a new place. The rent here is dirt cheap, and with my part-time job and school expenses, I can't afford anything else right now. So guys, here you are, seeing me stuck in an absolute nightmare, and I don't know how to get out of it. Every time I think about confronting Riley or Kate, I feel this wave of anxiety come over me. What if they get even more obsessive? What if things get worse? I can't exactly tell my landlord to leave me alone without risking getting kicked out, and I can't afford to move. That's why I'm turning to you guys, and I don't know what to do. Has anyone ever dealt with a situation like this? How do I make it stop without making things worse? Should I just suck it up and try to avoid them as much as possible? Or is there something else I can do? I'm at a breaking point here. I really need some advice, so guys, please help me out. Update 1. Hey guys, it's Leo again. And yes, it's been a week since I posted. And if you guys had any hope that this is a happy update, you might as well throw that hope out the window, because things have only gotten worse. I guess they're as bad as they could be. Well, not only that, I've also found something pretty shocking that sent my head reeling, and I don't know what to do. Before wasting another minute, let me get straight into it. So after my initial post, I was trying to just avoid Riley as much as possible, as suggested by a lot of you guys. I thought I'd try to keep a low profile, ignoring both Riley and Kate, and maybe this whole thing would just simply blow over. But oh boy, I could not have been more wrong. Well, let me start by saying that up until tonight I was doing okay, or at least I thought I was. I'd been managing to dodge Riley, avoiding her weird appearances and creepy smiles. I was also doing everything possible to keep them out of my mind. This is why I kept myself busy and started spending more time with my friends or girlfriend. And it seems like that's what Riley took advantage of. So tonight I was on a date with my girlfriend Jenna, and everything seemed to be good. We were at this nice restaurant, nothing fancy, but just a place we could chill and hang out. For once I wasn't stressing about school or work, or the whole creepy situation with my landlord. Things were actually going well, for once, until Riley showed up. Yeah, that's right. Riley showed up out of the blue on my date, and I don't even know how she found me there. Scratch that, I do, but I'll get to that in a minute. So there was Riley standing in front of our table looking very upset with me. I was pretty confused as to why Riley was here, and then it happened. All chaos broke loose. So guys, out of nowhere, Riley started shouting at me in the middle of the restaurant, telling everyone who would listen that I'm in love with her and that we're going to get married soon, and that my girlfriend was just some temporary distraction until I finally man up and make things official with her. It was like some twisted soap opera unfolding right there in front of me. Jenna, understandably, went into full shock mode and asked Riley what she was talking about, but Riley wasn't done yet. She pulled out her phone, and to my utmost shock, she showed these fake, photoshopped images of me and her together. See, they were pictures I had never seen in my life, with me being cozy with Riley. They were clearly fake, but guys, they looked pretty real, and anyone who wasn't in the situation would believe them to be true. And so did Jenna. She was furious by this point, and she started shouting at me as well, calling me a liar and a cheater. I tried to explain, but how do you defend yourself against something like that? And for people wondering why I did not tell my girlfriend about this before, well, I didn't want to worry her, and I can see how that came back to bite me. Well, you can understand how bad it was for me. I was standing there trying to explain things, while Riley kept hitting Jenna with more pictures of us together, infuriating Jenna more with each second. Nothing I said mattered, because Jenna was having none of it, and just like that, Jenna broke up with me right then and there and left the restaurant, while Riley just stood there looking as smug as ever. As I was too shocked to even react, but I knew I had to leave as well, so I did. On my way to my car, I was trying to process things, too heartbroken with everything that just happened, and as soon as I reached my car, lost in my thoughts, I dropped my keys while trying to get them out of my pocket, and just as I bent to pick them up, they slipped further under my car. So naturally, I tried to get them out. That's when I saw something strange, a blinking light coming from under the car's body. At first, I thought it was just some random thing, but when I got down on the ground and pulled it out, I realized it was not just anything. It was a tracker, a GPS tracker, and that's when everything made sense to me. I remembered how weirded out I was in my initial post, thinking about how it was possible for Riley to show up at every place I went to. Well, it just suddenly made sense. Exactly how all that's possible. Now, see, this tracker, that's how Riley always knew where I was. That's how she showed up at the cafe, the library, my work, and tonight at the restaurant. She's been tracking me, and I bet Kate's in on it too. It wouldn't surprise me if she was the mastermind behind this. I'm sitting here in my car now, staring at this little device in my hand, completely freaked out. I mean, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm really confused whether to confront them about this or not. There's a lot of questions in my mind, like, do I go to the police about it, or should I just go and confront them? But most importantly, I can't stop thinking about why they're even doing this. I honestly don't know what to do, guys. The situation has gotten pretty bad, and I could really use some advice, so please help me. Update 2. Hey guys, it's me again, and it's been a few days since my last update, and this whole thing has turned from weird to a complete disaster. For all those who are new, I'm Leo, and I've been renting a room from this landlady Kate, who's been pushing her daughter Riley on me in a really uncomfortable way. Well, they literally placed a tracker on my vehicle so they could track me and Riley could make moves on me. Their little scheme has even cost me my relationship, as my girlfriend broke up with me because of all of it, as mentioned in the previous update if you've seen it. And, for those of you who are concerned, I've tried talking to Jenna and she's still not willing to hear me out, so that ship is done for. Now coming back to the issue at hand with Kate and Riley, as mentioned in the last update, I was planning on confronting them about the tracker, as a lot of you suggested. But what happened when I went to confront them was absolutely wild. So I went back to the house, determined to confront them about it. But when I got there, I heard my name being shouted from inside. Driven by my curiosity, I did not go inside right away. Instead, I stood near the door and I just listened. I know eavesdropping isn't the best move, and I'm not really proud of it. But something told me I needed to hear this, and boy, was I right. So basically, Kate was absolutely screaming at Riley, saying she still had not convinced me to marry her, and I almost laughed at how desperate they were. But then she said something that made me freeze. She was furious because apparently, without me marrying Riley, they would not be able to get her father's inheritance and pay off a crazy loan that they took out against the house. Well, okay, I'm confused. I mean, what was going on just then? Riley shot back that it wasn't her fault and they would not even be in this mess if Kate had not gambled away all their money. Yeah, you read that right. Kate had gambled everything away. It sounded like Riley's dad had left her an inheritance. But the catch was, she could only claim it when she was married. That's why Kate was so desperate for her to get married as soon as possible. Because they were broke. But that wasn't even the worst part. Kate then screamed at Riley, saying that once we were married, she could go back to being who she really is in secret, as long as no one found out. She went on about how Riley's secret would only embarrass her if it got out. At that point, I was more confused than ever. What secret, and why did Kate sound so disgusted? I couldn't tell if she was mad at Riley or terrified of people finding out whatever this was. I'm honestly happy I didn't straight away go and confront them and decided to overhear this conversation. Because now I feel like, if only I could find out the truth behind this secret, then maybe I could use it against them to put a stop to this whole thing, or maybe get some payback for driving me crazy for so long. So guys, this is what I'm currently working on, trying to get to know the secret that Kate is using to manipulate her own daughter. Anyways, I'll totally keep you guys updated on what I decide to do. Update 3. Hey, so it's me again, and I did not think I'd be back here this soon, just 2 days after my previous update, to be precise, but I finally found out what all this fuss is about, this big secret, and believe me, I have just hit the jackpot and found my way out of all this mother-daughter mess. So after my last update, I was left thinking about how to figure out Riley's big secret. At last, like any other investigative movie, and with a lot of suggestions from you guys, I decided to follow her around and find out what she was up to. Did it work? Absolutely. I had no idea what I was going to find when I started tailing her, but I certainly did not expect what I saw. So Riley left to go shopping, or so she told her mother. Yes, don't judge me, but even I had been keeping tabs on what was going on between that weird duo. It wasn't something as intense as a tracker, but I just overheard a few conversations here and there. That's when I decided to follow Riley. But instead of a shopping mall or a supermarket, Riley ended up going to some deserted little cafe downtown. It wasn't much, and seemed more like an abandoned building, but it was clearly perfect for a secret rendezvous, which this seemed to be. There she actually went to go meet up with a girl who seemed to work at the cafe, and at first I thought it was obviously just a friend, but they didn't exactly greet each other like friends would, because as soon as they saw each other, they started to kiss, and it wasn't some peck on the cheek type of kiss, it was a really passionate one, long enough to give me a chance to snap a few pictures of it. So, as I watched the two of them from a distance, it was clear how their conversation turned into a disagreement, as the girl was a bit upset at Riley about why they had to meet in secrecy like this, and why she could not just own up to her mother, and Riley just told her that she was taking care of things at home. Well, two things were clear to me in this exact moment. First, Riley was not as smitten with me as she portrayed, because she was clearly in love with this girl Gemma and must be putting up with the whole act for her mother. Second, Gemma was totally clueless about what Riley and her mother were up to and how Kate planned for Gemma to always be Riley's little secret because she was clearly against Riley being with Gemma. Now, I'm not someone who likes meddling in other people's lives, but let's be real. Riley and her mom crossed a line. They were trying to trap me in a life I didn't ask for. So I decided, if they want to play dirty, I'll roll up my sleeves. I can play dirty too. A plan started to form in my head, and I knew exactly how to turn the tables. So that evening I went back to Kate's house and told her how I was ready to marry Riley. She was genuinely so happy. Her eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. I also told her I was planning a big proposal for Riley, and I wanted her to host a party for it, where she could also announce our engagement once. Riley said yes. She was all in, the smile not leaving her face for a second, and she told me how she would invite all her friends and neighbors, and how the party would be a huge hit. As for the next step of my plan, I went to talk to Gemma. I found her after her shift at the cafe, and I told her the whole truth about how Riley and her mom had been pressuring me into a marriage for money, how Riley had been playing both sides, dating her in secrecy while pretending to have a future with me to secure her dad's inheritance. To say that Gemma was furious would be an absolute understatement. Gemma wanted to go and confront Riley right at that moment, but I convinced her to help me out instead, as that would be a better payback for all the games that they had been playing with us. It took a little effort, but Gemma agreed. Then I went home, only to find Kate excited about all the party preparations, telling me how happy she was. Little did she know, her and her daughter's world would soon be turned upside down. The whole plan is set now, the party's in 2 days, and I can't wait to show everyone what a bunch of manipulative people these two were. Don't judge me, but I'm pretty excited about how things would go down. Anyways, I'll update you guys soon. Update for this is the final update of the story. Hey guys, it's Leo, again. I know a lot of you are waiting for an update, and sorry it took about a whole month. But I was going through some major transitions in my life, and I can finally say that I'm at a pretty good place in my life mentally and physically. But we'll talk about that later, because the majority of you here are wanting to know how the revenge plan went. So let me just jump straight into it. As you all know, I was planning on executing my plan at the proposal party, and that's exactly what I did. I had no idea things would escalate the way that they did, but I guess karma has a funny way of working. So it's been a few weeks since the party that Kate threw, where she invited almost everyone she knew, friends, neighbors, family, and even a bunch of coworkers. It was the perfect stage to settle the score. The party was going well, and that's when Kate got everyone's attention to say that I had a big announcement to make. She was expecting this to be the moment when I'd go down on one knee and propose to her darling daughter. But instead, I pulled the rug from underneath her feet when I started talking about her daughter's whole scheme. I let it all out for everyone to hear. I aired it all out. They had practically harassed me into agreeing to this whole thing for the sake of some inheritance, just because Kate had gambled away everything, and now their house might be taken away by the bank. I even told them how Kate had been manipulating her daughter to win me over for a scheme, while she was in love with someone else the whole time. Everyone was shocked, while Kate and Riley just stood there, the color draining from their faces. That's when I invited Gemma to join me. She had been there hiding with the staff all along, and when Riley saw Gemma, the horror on her face was crystal clear. And that's when Gemma broke up with Riley in front of everyone, for playing her along and stringing her on, and left after creating this whole dramatic scene. Riley had broken up my relationship before, so it felt like poetic justice watching her get the exact same thing in front of all her friends and family. She couldn't even look me in the eyes after that. Well, that wasn't all, guys. The party blew up, and it was basically the end of Riley and Kate's cruel schemes and tactics, because after the party they were left pretty miserable. Not only did Kate lose her last shot at saving the house, but the people around her started to see her for who she really was. The news about her gambling debt spread like wildfire, and she quickly became a laughing stock in her social circle. Even her own family turned their backs on her. But that was not the end of it, as some of her co-workers were also present at the party, or found out about it from the church, where Kate worked as the secretary, and apparently the church could not be associated with someone who had such a questionable reputation, so she was fired on the spot. So now Kate's not only broke but unemployed, without a job, and no way to repay her debts. The bank finally foreclosed on the house, and the last I heard, Kate and Riley were living in some rundown trailer on the outskirts of the city. Well deserved, I guess, considering how they tried to trap me in all this mess. Well, guys, what do you think? Did I make the right decision or not?